and Dr. Woodley at 6 o'clock for Dr. Woodley. And then the East Coasters, we've got 7 o'clock. So good evening, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Thriving Pet Expo. We're talking about the expo, but you can also ask some questions if you need to ask some questions about different things. But I want to welcome, and most of you know Dr. Woodley by now, but if not, you're in for a treat. So good evening, Dr. Woodley. How are you?
I'm doing great, Carrie. Thanks so much for having me. And hi, everyone. So excited to be here again, of course, and talk about your upcoming Thriving Pet Expo and all the fun things that we're doing for that.
Yeah. It's say out. I feel like it's a very our thing, like it's our baby that we're all kind of birthing together. It's only in its second year, and this is your first year of speaking there, but it cannot be done by one person. It is a collective group of like-minded people coming together to help educate not only the audience, but ourselves, right? Like we're going to learn a lot ourselves there. And so it's kind of it's our thing. I keep on saying, our thriving pet, and you are such a big part of this. So I'm so glad you came on board. I'm so glad you.
I'm so glad you had me. I know I couldn't make it last year, so I was really grateful that you were like, yes, please be a part of it. I feel very grateful to be amongst amazing colleagues like you putting this together. And then, of course, the amazing pet parents that will be there that just want to like absorb all the things and take action and implement and just be around other holistic minded pet parents, because it can be really hard, right? It can be feel like you can feel really alone at times when you're on this path trying to figure things out and help your pets. So in live events, even though I wasn't there last year, I know I heard about the magic around the environment, and there's something really special about coming together in an intimate setting and being able to share what you're doing and like get the support from everyone too. And those types of events, so different from online. So I'm really excited to be there and meet people.
That's such a good point because there are so much access to learning and educating yourself online. We can join Facebook groups, which I noticed that Dee is on here. She has another Facebook group that's amazing called Pawformative, and they do such a great job also of educating. But you can still feel very alone. When most people know what I just went through, which we won't get into the details, but as much as I know and as much I can't tell you, knowing that I had support behind me, knowing that I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one that feels like this. And even though the vet standing in front of me doesn't, to have that support. So it's really amazing when you do meet people at these events, and it sticks with you. It stays with you that I am doing the right thing. This is the way that I want to do things, and it's okay. And that's why I really love live events, which is getting harder and harder to go to, I find stuff that I'm interested in. And then I look and it's like online class. And I'm like, no, I want to go in person.
Yeah, the in-person stuff is incredible. I go to a lot of like personal development type things that are in person,
Yeah.
and it's just, oh my gosh, the magic there. And so being able to be around other people that are just wanting to grow and learn, and, with pets, like we all share this amazing passion for animals and like improving the world through a holistic approach. Like it like lights your soul on fire. So it's just amazing. So for anyone here thinking about it, if you can, definitely, I saw you release like the 1-day tickets too, but there's so many of us sharing a lot of different experiences and knowledge. It's really nice to get to know each other over those 2 days if you can make it out there.
Yeah. The 2 days. So last year we did only a 1 day. And then this year we decided to do 2 days because there was a lot of people on the East Coast and the Midwest that it's a lot to fly out for 1 day. And so we went ahead and did it. But then we had people on the West Coast saying, oh, I can't go for 2 days. And so we finally just released both. It's the first year of us doing that last year. Like I said, it was only a 1 day. But I think you're right on the 2 day, just about the time you get knowing somebody and comfortable, and you're okay with asking the questions. And what's so great about a 2 day is whatever comes up on day one can still be asked on day two, right?
Yep.
So when you're laying in bed and you're like, oh, I should have asked, Because we all do that, right? When everything, and then all of a sudden you're like, I should have asked, you know.
I'm not the only one that wakes up at 1 a.m., you know, with that thought, like, wow, I should have done that.
Why
I
didn't
should
they
have
do
asked
that?
that.
Why didn't they say that? Yeah. So it's really good if you come on Saturday and Sunday, because you still have Sunday to kind of get those questions. And what's really great on Sunday is we did do something last year that we will be doing this year too, is that about 2 days after the event, we will go live and you can still ask questions from Sunday. So it's kind of cool that you'll be able to get all of those answered and stuff. So Dee's on the wrong side. She lives in Florida. So, but she does have a question. She says, have a question just came on my page. 60-pound dog started today on milk thistle, according to Herbal Smith's dosage. Pup started itching. Would you say ingredients are flushing the pup system? Should he stop Herb Smith?
So this
Is it
yeah,
Herb
I know,
Smith?
I know, yeah, Herb Smith,
Are
yeah.
you familiar with it?
Yeah, it's a good quality company. I have no issues with them. My big thing, I talk a lot about detoxification, and it'll be a part of like my talk that I'm going to be presenting to for the Thriving Pet Expo, because it's a huge part of like skin and gut health and all those areas, right? It's a pillar that I talk about is detoxification, environmental health, and so when we look at milk thistle, you know, it's supporting phase 1 and phase 2 of detox pathways in the liver, but we also have to look at what else is going on in the body. So there's also a third phase of detox where is the gut working properly? What's the motility like? Because if we're going to push toxins through that liver and process it, and then it gets dumped into the gut or the kidneys, if we have an issue with any of those systems, where it can't process or remove those toxins, they get recirculated and restored or have to be reprocessed. So I'm always looking at, okay, well, what's going on? Do we have a gut health issue? Is there some constipation, even diarrhea? That's an issue with motility issue. The kidneys aren't working as well. So a lot of processing milk this. So when I'm looking at detoxification, it's very safe. But for this specific case with like D, what you can always do is whenever we see a reaction like this, if nothing else has changed, I always take a break and then I restart at a lower dosage. But I also want to look at, are there other things that we can utilize too, like binders? These are things like humic, fulvic acid that are really becoming a lot more popular in the pet side now. And those are going to bind to those toxins and help remove them so they don't get recirculated back. The other thing too, which is a huge factor with like skin health and, you know, the microbiome, is what is the diet that we're feeding too? Do we have the right nutrients or be able to break down the food into like amino acids and other factors that are going to support the different phases of detoxification? Because if the liver even can't process in those first 2 phases, it can actually push those toxins back out into the bloodstream and it can make your pet show up like a detox reaction and more itchy. So I don't like detox reactions. I know there are some vets that you can partner with like to process that and work through it, but I'm not a big fan of seeing pets get itchier or have flare-ups, because then it's, are we actually having a reaction or do we have a blocked detox pathway is how I look at that. So I look at it from like kind of the bigger picture when I hear about that. And that's kind of how I would approach it with like my own clients and patients.
I love that you said give him a break and then give him some, but less the dose.
Yeah.
And the reason I like that is because sometimes people think that's what they're reacting to and they forget that there was something else that happened too, right? And so you got to be sure. You got to be sure, because this could be the answer. And if you just go, oh, that's what caused it, and you're not really sure till you do it twice. But I love that you say a smaller dose, because if it is, we don't want to, you know,
Yeah,
give
he
him
doesn't
that.
want to be uncomfortable. Like,
Right.
yeah. And the thing is too, I work with so many sensitive pets also. So usually I'm not using dosages that are on the back of the box or the label, because keep in mind too, when we're using herbs and holistic medicine, there's a dose range. So, you know, they're picking kind of the median range. That's like the safest level. So sometimes we need to use much higher dosages, but also too, if your pet's really sensitive, so, you know, they react to all sorts of things, we need to start with smaller dosages and work our way up and not add multiple things in, because they may not need a whole lot to really start optimizing their system, but we don't want to send them into a massive flare up either, or whatever it is that's occurring, because quality of life, we can't explain to our pets, like, it's okay, you're going to get through it, right? Where we can rationalize that for ourselves if we go through a massive detox reaction. But I still don't believe in detox reactions in terms of like, we should endure it. It tells us there's a problem with the pathway, and we have to look at the physiological pathways and optimize them, because there's always a reason why we see a flare up. So, once again, easy solution, stop it for a couple days, get back to baseline, and then restart at lower dosage, work your way up, see how things go, and then go from there.
That's so see, this is why we love her. She answers it so perfect and understanding, and I don't know, it's just really, really good. It's just always is so great. Great. It's so great. So we promised that we would eventually start slowly letting you guys know what the topics were going to be at the Thriving Pet Expo. So little by little, we're releasing that out. So Dr. Woodley, what is your topic this year?
Yeah, so we're talking about, or I am talking about skin health and really healing the skin through the gut. So, really dialing in and talking about that gut skin axis, because so many people are focusing on the wrong thing when it comes to like allergies, inflammation, and we've got to look to the gut. We've got to heal that. But also, too, there's so many things that we're forgetting with like nutrients and vitamins and minerals that we can supplement or make sure that our pet is digesting appropriately to actually break down the food to really heal their body. So I'm really excited to like dial in like those two key areas, because like 50% of patients are dealing with like a skin issue that we see. And I think it's probably higher, to be honest. Like, I know you deal with skin issues like all day long. So, but, looking at the bigger picture, that's always the big thing that I look at. So taking this common topic, common problem for our dogs and our cats, and really breaking it down into some simple, easy to implement tools that you can take home with you to make sure you're either preventing disease, preventing skin disease, preventing gut health issues, or fixing it in a proactive approach.
I'm so excited. Last year, it was so hard for me to get into that space where I could just listen to the speakers last year, because I am running the event with Lori. It's kind of just the two of us and then some of my staff. And it was our first year and we were a little overwhelmed. So I didn't really get to listen and learn like I like to do. But I got to tell you, most people who know me, like the skin is I love learning about the skin. It's something I'm inundated in. And so I can't wait. I have already said, when Dr. Woodley, and this is not to play favoritism, but when Dr. Woodley's speaking, I'm going to be like, okay, nobody talk to me. I need to listen. So I'm super excited because you think it's like, people think, oh, it's the skin and he's itchy. And then they just want to suppress it and make it stop. And, they take off the collar because it's that sound and everything's driving them crazy. But it can get really in-depth understanding how the skin works. I feel like I'm telling you, but to everybody else who's listening, it is an organ. It's
the largest organ in the body. And we don't give it enough attention, which is really, really important. And, the thing is, what's really neat too, is like all the research that's going into like the microbiome, but people tend to think it's just like the gut. But we have this amazing microbiome in the skin, and then we have all these different layers of this. It's not just like skin, right? There's so many different layers, and they're doing different things. And we can use specific supplements and nutrients to really like support it and prevent disease, but also to heal it. Your pet's not Apoquel deficient or Cytopoint deficient. That's what I always, some like there's a time and a place for drugs. Awesome. Don't get me wrong. Like there's a time and a place, right, with like quality of life. But I find that we dismiss actually finding the root cause by just jumping straight to these immunosuppressive drugs. And then unfortunately, these pets are on them for like life, which is not how they're meant to be used. Right. So there's, no long-term health studies that show that it's safe long-term. But, a lot of times, some of these poor animals, like they're zinc deficient. And it's one of those.
I'm still giggling at your pet's not Apoquel deficient. Like
I say it a lot. I say that with like your pet's not metronidazole deficient. You can like just insert the drug name and think is my pet blank deficient, right? For any drug. They're not, right? They're not metronidazole deficient. They're not Apoquel deficient. Like it's literally, it's a pill for every ill, right? And that's where we get stuck, and we see symptom resolution really quickly, and then we get stuck into this like fear, like if they come off of it they're going to get worse and we can't fix it, and it becomes this whole vicious cycle that so many pet parents get stuck in. And when we take a look and like take that step back and we start looking for like the underlying causes and reasons for this occurring, like why is the skin microbiome so like in disarray? Why do we have dysbiosis in the gut? And we start looking at these underlying causes, and we look to the environment, and we look at all the amazing research on the human side too, and this connection, we can actually start healing the body, because then we can use supplements, botanicals, herbs that actually work at the cell level to manipulate and manage the immune system, that don't come with all the side effects like Apoquel and Cytopoint do, but are actually going to calm down the immune response while they're actually healing also. That's the key. Like that's the power of like herbalism and herbal medicine, is that we're looking at this individual pet, and then we're able to match it with a lot of these botanicals, and also food therapy is a big part of it too, how we can use the energetics of food to help heal also. And man, it opens up an entire world of, it's just so powerful and it's exciting. I love being able to have like these tools and resources, and so many pet parents and even my colleagues don't even know these things exist.
Right. I recently was talking to a really well-known veterinarian, and we were talking about these skin cells that exist, and she's a great vet, don't get me wrong at all, but I had also told her how thick the first layer of skin was, and she didn't know that. She's not an expert in skin. That's not, I mean, she's an expert in a lot of things, but she was even, and that was the other thing I love about her, is that she was willing. That's why I love you guys. You're willing to say we don't know everything, and so we have to learn, and we have to continue to learn. And but yeah, the skin cells, you know how thick they are, and each, like you said earlier, each layer is doing something, and each part of the epidermis is doing something. Is so interesting and fascinating. And what I love about what we did last year for the Pet Expo, and we're doing it this year, is that each conversation leads, right? Because you could get up there and speak for probably 12 hours on skin, right? I mean, we could. It can get so in depth, but no speaker wants to speak for 12 hours, and nobody listening wants to speak to the same speaker for 12 hours. It just is too much. So as we set this along, each one they layer on top of each other. So we have Rita talking about the herbs, who's going to be talking about the skin. You're going to be talking about the skin. And so each one layers on top of, and it just ends up being this beautiful, I want to say cake, I don't know why, but a beautiful layered cake.
It's delicious, right?
Yeah, it's just being, beautiful, which, by the way, I'm having a cake made. I know this is a health wellness, but I'm going to let everybody eat cake on the last day, and only on the last day. Otherwise, we're getting pretty healthy. But it's a super surprise cake, and I can't wait for everybody to see this cake. It's so amazing. I have a good friend of mine who's a cake designer, and she can let me just tell you, come to the expo just to see the cake. If nothing else.
There you go. Come for the cake. Isn't that a thing? Isn't that a say? Isn't that something like quote in a movie?
Come for the cake. Come for the cake. Come for the cake. Yeah. So on the last day, we're going to have this amazing cake. So I'm excited about it. Mostly I'm excited about the way it's going to look. It's going to be beautiful. But anyway, so it's the icing, having all of you guys and the layers together just come together, and then it's just icing on the cake, that it all kind of falls on to each other. So, and that's what was so important about having this many speakers, is making sure that we cover everything, because like you said, if you have to, there's more to it. It could be zinc deficiencies. It could be, which zinc deficiencies I think is a big one, especially with all the rice that.
Yeah. So that's your phytates, right? So when you think about like, your oats and your corn and all the, like your phytates, those are going to block the absorption of zinc. And so if you think about like these pets that are on kibble diets that are really high carbs, that are really like rich in these types of foods, they're actually creating some of these nutritional imbalances. And then what happens is you go to the vet and they recommend your prescription diet, which like didn't fix it. So, and then you're now spending more and more money and your pet's not getting any better. So this is where if we understand like the basic principles and we can go a bit deeper and unlock that like true healing, this is where like I keep saying it, but this is where the magic is. And I hear this all the time too. Even if you feel like you've heard it before, I always recommend people like for like this talk, whenever you have other speakers on like podcasts or you're listening to a webinar or you come to this event, keep an open mind because different. And I listen to a lot of the speakers, my colleagues that are going to be there also because they will say things a different way that makes things click. And that's
Yep.
really, really important. So, some people are going to resonate more with the way I speak and the way I teach. Other people are going to resonate more with the way Dr. Odette Suter speaks, the way Rita Hogan speaks. But I always say keep an open mind because you never know when the one thing will change your life that you will
Yeah.
pick up. And
Yeah.
so, but it's important that we don't go into something where we go, I already know this. I've
Mhm.
already heard this. I've already
Yeah.
done it all. I've done everything. That's a
Yeah.
dangerous place to be, especially if we have a pet or yourself with a chronic health issue.
Yeah.
Very well versed in that with my husband and our journey finding holistic health through autoimmune disease nearly a decade ago. If we shut down and said we knew everything, we'd be dead in the water. He'd be on immunosuppressive drugs. If I listened to his doctor say there's nothing you can do for ulcerative colitis, we'd be hopeless. And that's really important for every pet parent is make sure you keep an open mind with a lot of this. And you never know the one thing that's going to come out that was exactly why you were there to pick up on that to apply it to your pets.
Yeah. I think too, when you're live, somehow you just understand it better through that
It's
kind
more
of
active. It's more
yeah.
active too when you're engaging also. There's some things that I'm going to be incorporating that are going to be a little bit different. I haven't told you yet, Carrie.
Don't tell me. I love surprises unless you want to say it, but I
like
love
more active learning is,
love it.
when you're, it can be hard to do. It can be done, through Zoom and things like that. But when you're amongst people and you can brainstorm and ask those questions and you're actually like really thinking and journaling about something, that's where you can start seeing where the gaps and the holes are for you to adjust. And then two, you also get the momentum and like the energy to be like, I've got this. This is great. Like, especially when you're stuck in like a chronic health issue, it can be so hard, right? I don't know, with people watching this or rewatching this later, like it is defeating. It can be really deflating. And that's like the power of being able to bring people together and ask the questions and ask all of us questions that come up.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It is, and you're so right about somebody says something just different. They just different enough. Just what you said just now. Your dogs, I never, and I work with, I never thought about it that way. I never ever thought about it that yeah, your pet's not deficient in Apoquel or whatever drug that you're giving him. He's not deficient in that, but he's probably deficient in so many other things. And you know this, I know this, most of you probably know. Victor's going to be at there. I'm so excited. Victor's going to be at the event this year too. So, but a lot of times now I lost my train of thought because I got excited about seeing Victor. He's got some cute dogs. They won't be there because he can't. But a lot of times when vets run blood panels, right, they're not checking the zinc. So they give you back, and if you don't know, right, they give you back the blood work, and they say everything looks normal.
Yep.
Right? Everything looks normal. That just means on that blood work. But very few, it's been about 2 years. I had a client who wanted to make her own food, and I wanted her to go get a nutrient panel so that she could keep an eye on the vitamin D and all this kind of stuff. I have to ask her how many vets she went to. I do know she went to one, and he said, and I'm quoting, I don't know why you want to run a vitamin D. Overdose of vitamin D could cause kidney failure. And she was
what
like,
if they're deficient?
He was kind of like, well, that's why I want to keep an eye on it. I don't want to be giving too much or too little. But he was like, I don't know what. I don't think he knew to do that or how to look for it or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I see it daily. Right now I have a amazing like proactive client I'm working with that it's running like every panel,
By the way, vets love proactive
I
That's why.
love when you guys want to do the things and you ask the
Ah,
questions. Like it's amazing. But looking at as her test results are coming in, like her dogs are healthy. There are zero symptoms. They're young. She feeds them. They've been fed raw since day one. They were, their lineage is like raw fed. Like they run on a
wow.
treadmill. They do like bite work. Like they are like totally engaged. Their environment's enriched, and they're vitamin D deficient.
Wow.
Like they're insufficient. They're not like severely deficient. But I'm like, how would we have known that
Never.
if we didn't test it?
Yep.
Like that's the thing. Like we would have had no idea.
No
And
idea.
it would have been one of those things where it's like a ticking time bomb. You may be fine, but if there's something that's deficient, that immune system, like vitamin D is really important for a lot of things.
Yep.
And it's going to potentially affect the immune system. So then let's add a bit of stress in. Let's add a little bit of inflammation. You get stung by a bee. All of a sudden, now we've created a perfect storm in the body for an overreactive immune system. And that's when things can fall apart. And you're like, what happened? I have no idea where things went wrong. Why did all of a sudden one day I woke up and now they have like atopic dermatitis or they have IBD or an autoimmune disease? And it's because these layers build up over time. And if we can be proactive, now it doesn't mean you have to run everything at once because it can be expensive, right? But if you can space out a lot of these tests that you can either take to your vet or you can do on your own, it's going to make a huge difference for your pet because you're going to be proactive. The cost of owning that pet will be a lot less than if we just pretend that everything's okay. And I always say, the whole let's just wait and see approach, it doesn't work very well. And it
Yeah.
ends up usually in catastrophe towards the end. I've been there with my own pets. It's part of my journey. And I just didn't know. But now I know. And that's
Yeah.
the difference.
Yeah, because I always use this example. If I start to feel kind of a little lethargic, no one that is around me is going to know I'm feeling like that because I'm still going to work. I still get up. I still do my things, but I can feel it. And then I know how to communicate that. And then I think, oh, maybe my iron is a little low, or I can, but your animals can't. So by the time they've tried to communicate that to you, which they probably are in their skin problems, especially zinc and those kind of things, right?
Yeah.
But really quick, I'm going to ask you this question: Where can well, can dogs get vitamin D from the sun?
No.
Yeah, I want to make sure people
No.
know that because I could
Yeah.
just see people going.
I actually,
Just
so
hang
here's
out
the,
in the sun.
so what's crazy is that I actually had a colleague tell one of our like mutual clients to just like take her pets out in the sun to get their vitamin D. And so it is one of those things where no, we actually need to make sure it's in the food. And this is where, VDI is the tests that I use with a lot of my clients. It's great. Like even my clients that aren't like physically near me, you can mail them the test kits. They just go and get a blood draw. So a lot of times the technician will just draw the blood and it's super easy to do and they mail it off to VDI and you can check it. I know Dr. Judy Morgan sells those test kits on her
Right.
website and it's not super expensive either. But every pet at some point should have their vitamin D tested because especially if they have a chronic health issue, so if they have like, allergic dermatitis and skin issues, 100% we need to check that because that's a huge important component of that immune system. And we already know the immune system is dysregulated. We know there's most likely a microbiome issue too. But it's one thing. And what's so neat and nice about the VDI test kit is it tells you the dosage to do and what supplement to use. They make it really easy for the veterinarian, where some other labs, you get it back and you're like, what do I do with this information? Like, and then you start worrying, like, I'm going to create an imbalance here. I might overdose, but VDI makes it easy for you so that you actually know the amount of international units or micrograms to use to supplement your pets with. So that test is really, really important. What's really neat now too is we have omega-3 testing also for pets, which is great through Omega Quant. It's done through standard process, but Omega Quant is a human company that also does pet testing. And it's like a little just blood drop, kind of like, when you prick your finger and like put it onto a circle. There's a lot of tests that are on the human side for that. And it's really easy to do. And you can get an idea, is my pet deficient in essential fatty acids? Because, relating back to skin, that's another huge area. And especially if we're feeding foods that are higher in carbohydrates or even, grain fed animals, we know that omega 6 to omega 3 ratio is a lot higher. And so if we know that, then we need to supplement more from either whole food sources or, your fish oil, your sometimes cod liver oil, depending on if we need vitamin A and vitamin D. So there's a lot of different things that we can do. But there's testing now. I know not everyone can do the testing, but if it's something where you're able to do or space it apart, it'll give you a lot more information and then you'll feel more comfortable. And then, two, you're not wasting money supplementing something. Because if you're like omega-3s are great and you're in a great range and you're feeding a really well balanced variety of foods, like you don't need to waste money on a supplement. That's the other thing. I just find so many pet parents are over supplementing and we're spending so much money on supplements. It's not cheap, and then we end up with like a supplement graveyard and you're like, well, it's nice when I start working with them because I'm like, well, let's just open up the supplement graveyard and see what you have. We pull that out. Let's retry that.
Yeah.
But it's not, it's so expensive when we're just trying things, hoping it works. We don't even know if our pets need it. And we can actually create more imbalances. And that can lead to issues too with the skin.
Yeah.
Also, if we're like overdoing certain things, we can actually make things worse.
Yeah, the vitamin D, I'm going to be talking about this more in depth at the expo, but the vitamin D overdose that just happened, and we had like those 38 or 4,800 animals die from overdosing vitamin D. That was from Hill's Science Diet had overdosed their vitamin D. So, it's important to know because too much or too little both can cause some pretty serious problems. Victor mentions that he thought his dogs were laying in the sun because they wanted vitamin D. It's okay, Victor. You're not alone. I remember when I learned that when I was taking my certifications, I was like, oh, that's interesting, right? It does seem interesting.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense. They're just there for the warmth, though. They're just grounding themselves emotionally.
Yeah. Yeah. I've often wondered, though, what I noticed is a lot of yeast dogs will lay in the sun. And I'm like, I wonder if that somehow just makes them feel like it's drying. I don't know. I don't know. But a lot of my clients, I ask them, try to tell me a little bit more. And a lot of the yeast dogs will go lay in the sun. They'll just lay out there. And I'm like, I wonder if that just feels good, to them. I don't know. My cats lay in the sun every day and they don't have yeast.
It's interesting.
Get enough.
This is the interesting thing. So my brain goes to Chinese medicine. So looking at like the energetics, because each pet's going to be an individual. And this is why like you'll see someone uses a certain supplement and your pets have same symptoms, but it doesn't work for you and it worked really well for them. So keep in mind your pet's still like an individual. And this is where looking at the energetics of your pet and the constitution of your pet. So this is like like personality type. We can look at, okay, what systems can kind of go out of whack if they're not in full balance. And then we can actually look at the energetics of food and the energetics of herbs, and we can match it to your pet. Like anyone can do this. Like you don't have to be like, yes, it helps to be an herbalist, right? And have like training, but we can break it down to very simplistic things like this, where my cat, he's laid out. I wish you could see him. There's two of them. They're blending into my like little ripple rug behind me. But one of them, he won't lay in the sun. He likes the cool surfaces. He tends to be what we call like my wood personality. He's our dominant cat. He's like my little cat dog. And then my Kiwi cat, who's a senior, she loves the sun, soaks it up. So she tends to run colder. So when I look at like food and herbs, I have to be very careful with what I use for them consistently, because if I were to use like warming foods for my one cat that tends to get hot more easily, doesn't sunbathe, I can actually overheat him. Whereas my senior cat loves the warming foods. She does really well, self-selects. I'm going to say chicken, but we feed, I have to also be careful too. Sometimes the raw food is too cold for her energetically. And then also too, looking at herbs. So I don't want to use herbs that are draining, that are too cooling, that are bitter tasting for her, because it's going to be too much for her body and it's going to put her out of balance even more. So these are really neat things that you can start looking at. And I'll be talking a lot about different herbs that we can use for skin disease and supporting gut health. But it's just another level versus just grabbing something because someone said it works for like dermatitis. Right. So, we can take it another level up, and that's where you get even better results with your pets.
It's going to be great. Wendy, yes, you can ask Dr. Woodley any question you want, but I don't want to say but we are talking about the Thriving Pet Expo, and we were just announcing her topic tonight, but you can ask she's here, so you can ask anything. Well, I don't know about anything.
I might not know the answer to anything, so I'd be the first to admit that.
But yeah, I'm sure you probably know the answer to everything. But yeah,
I don't know, but no, I don't.
I'm taking my dogs on an airplane in September, and they have never been on a plane. I'm obviously worried that they are not going to be chill for the ride. We have been practicing being on our soft carriers. However, just in case, how bad is Benadryl, and what are more natural options?
Okay, so this is definitely, I feel like Benadryl. So this is where, so you've got time, right? We have a month until September, well, 3 weeks. I don't know when in
Yeah.
September. This is where you can actually try certain things at home to see your pet's responses. Because once again, certain types of like anti-anxiety herbs or supplements may not work as well. So, okay, we have 3 weeks, Wendy. Perfect. So this is the 1st of September. So this is where I'd be looking at things like CBD. I mean, the other big thing too is, how are these dogs normally? Are they stressed out in certain situations? Do they get upset or, fearful when when things change? Because that's going to determine if we need to layer more like types of herbs or supplements on top of each other. Some pets who are just like super chill and relaxed anyways usually do just fine. Like you could use CBD. You could also use things. So like I love teas. Using teas are really easy and really helpful. And this is where like chamomile tea is really helpful. You can put it in like the food, and I'd start getting them used to that. There's also your rescue remedies, your Bach flower essences. Those are helpful. Sherry, you mentioned melatonin. You can use melatonin. So instead of giving it at night, we give it, first thing in the morning, and that can make them a little bit more drowsy because it can affect that sleep wake cycle. But I'd start with one thing, and then, if you need to add more, and this is what situations do they get stressed? So you can kind of test it versus like being at home and you're like, well, they're sleeping. Like, I don't know if it's working. Like if you're going, like they get kind of stressed or anxious with car rides, take them on a car ride, test it and see how they do. But a lot of times when you do use more natural remedies, you're going to layer them on top of one another because they're going to work in different, pathways and on different, things in the body. So that's why the layering and using different ones can be helpful.
I can say, because I do boarding, so
Oh,
I
yes.
have I have
You're very
stress.
well versed at
We
this.
have some stress cases. These three I have layered before with animals, and this combination has worked the best for me. CBD, and then Herb Smith makes something called the 3rd of July, which I always want to call it the 4th of July, but it's called the 3rd of July, and it's got like valerian in it, and it's got a couple of things. And then in the worst cases, I will then add melatonin on top of that. And that's for like hardcore cases. So like Dr. Woodley said, testing, that's the thing. You test it at home and you're like, yeah, it worked. He's sleeping.
Yeah, it's not stressful though.
Yeah, you got to put him in that stressful environment to check him out. But I've layered those three things together and have got amazing results. CBD works sometimes, but
It doesn't, it's not, yeah, by itself,
not
like
enough.
it's not enough.
Yeah, but
You
any
know,
one of those three by themselves don't seem to work. It's like I
no,
have
it's
to have.
yeah, you have to
Yeah,
layer it and start
yeah,
it now. So that way it's in the system too, can be really helpful.
yeah.
You can use melatonin for humans. You just need to make sure it doesn't have xylitol or other things in it.
That's a good
Super
point.
easy to find. The other thing too, I find here is, you mentioned, I think she mentioned, or maybe she didn't, but I would be looking at yourself too. Am I going to be really stressed? Because if we're like getting stressed and you're like, the dogs are stressed and you're stressed, you're all going to feed off of one another. So this is where making sure, like, this is why I love teas, because make sure you are taking care of yourself using herbal teas, using some of the things, like these are all like for dogs and for humans and cats, right? They can be used interspecies. So just making sure that you're like doing the things for yourself too, so that they're seeing you as like the confident leader of the pack, so they don't have to worry. Also can be
So true.
any sedation left out loud. So just work on those things and maybe, get some CBD for yourself too.
Right? I don't do a very good job of flying, and so I usually have to take something. I'll take CBD, I fly with it and stuff, and it does help me, but I have to take it. I start taking it the day before, which is what Dr. Woodley's talking about, is taking it before. The other question I would have, Wendy, is your dogs going with you, or are they going under the plane? Like that's always a concern of
Yeah.
mine. Like, if we're going to be giving animals anything,
you need, I would
Are they with you
hesitate
or are they going
not.
under the plane? I didn't know how big your dog was because certainly it's always a danger to give somebody something, especially it depends on how long the
Can't
flight
monitor.
is. Yeah,
Yep.
all that kind of stuff. You have to start kind of asking yourself that.
Okay, no way under. That's good. Okay. Yeah, so as long as you can
I
monitor it. So,
figured, but you never
yeah.
know. You never know. They
Yeah, I
still
mean,
do it.
I
They
had to bring
still.
my pets back from New Zealand. That was
Oh,
really exciting, like German
yeah.
Shepherd and 2 cats. So, it's one of those things you can just do your best, but
Yeah.
California to Georgia, so it is a long flight.
It's a long flight. Yeah.
Just do the things, layer the things, also take care of yourself too. Remember to breathe, deep breathing,
Yeah.
in for 5, out for 5. It's really, really helpful. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but it actually works.
It works.
So,
Yeah.
we tend to forget about our side and our like element in this too. So just doing those things to help yourself can make a huge difference for your little Yorkie poos.
Oh, God. They're
Your little
little. They're so
babies.
great.
Yeah, they are
Yeah.
little.
Yeah. Never flown before. Yeah. You'd be surprised. I will tell you this. You would be surprised. I have personally flown with dogs. I don't know. I think it's just the luck of the draw for me, but I'll be on flights. There's always dogs next to me. I always seem to
Yeah,
be the one
yeah,
that
there
gets
is
the dogs,
good.
which I'm totally fine. I don't know. Maybe they're drugging their, I shouldn't say drug, but maybe they're giving their dogs something. But most of the dogs that I see on flights don't seem to have any
No.
reactions. They seem to do really well. So they're getting groomed at the spa. Are you moving, Wendy? I'm all, wait a second. Uh, so we could test it at the spa. Anyway, I wasn't putting 2 and 2 together, but I wonder if you're moving. I'll be there on the 28th, so we could talk some more about it, and we can even test it for grooming that day. Oh, good. We can test it for grooming that day because no matter how much your dog's, it's still a little bit stressful. So we could test it. You could give it to them the night before, and then we could see how they do for grooming that next day. That would be a good
Yeah.
indication and we can let you know how that went. So we can talk about that. So,
Yeah.
yay. Um, so the Thriving Pet Expo, we have so much going on with, we have 7 speakers. We have live music. Did you know that?
I think you told me that.
We have
Yes.
some live music. And then also for those of you guys, including you, Dr. Woodley, we're putting together a beautiful memorial. So I'm going to need pictures from everybody. That is just such a beautiful thing that we do. And I know that you have your baby. We can put in that. I know it's sad, but it's also the
Hmm.
reason why it's so important to me to do the memorial at the Thriving Pet Expo is because it's what makes us do what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's what, had I not lost Tootsie so many years ago, I lost her to flea and tick medication. Had I not lost Tootsie so many years ago, I don't want to say that I wouldn't still be doing this, but it definitely makes me get more into the space of holistic stuff and
Yeah.
understanding about asking questions and just recently you all know about my cat, and I had to go to 3 different emergency rooms, and each one I would say under no whatever that is, do not give my cat convenient. If I need to sign something, if I need to go in the back, whatever I need to do. And you know what was interesting is one of the emergency rooms said to me, "We don't use that here." And I was like,
Interesting.
what's so interesting to me about that is that this is a big emergency room. It's corporate. And I'm like, they know. But what's sad is the little small mom and pop, because there's maybe only one of them, they don't know yet that drug is causing some serious problems. But the big ones that are all over the country are getting more information. But geez, how long is it going to take before that gets to the FDA and before it is pulled off the market? I don't know.
Well, look at your flea and tick medications. That tells you right there.
15 years. I
Yeah.
knew 15 years before the FDA started the investigation that stuff was killing dogs. And that was 20 years ago.
Yeah. And it's
It
still
took
on the market.
It's still on the market,
They
but
have
at
new
least the
classes of it.
FDA
Yeah.
has finally said something about it. But I remember thinking, when are they going to say something? I mean, clearly these animals are dying. So it was
Yeah.
Pacifica that I went to. It's okay. And I said, do not give my cat Convenia. And they said, we don't give that here. And I immediately thought, wow, because the other emergency room wanted to give it. And I was like, don't. So it was just interesting to me that this
Yeah.
big place was like, they know it, but
Yeah.
all the individual pet parents, if you didn't know, you just walk in and they give your cat convenient. I mean, just from what I know, a lot of animals are, I don't know about you, but a lot of
Well, it's
animals
hard to tell. Like, I mean, here's the problem with a lot of like the pets that I work with is that we have so many chronic health issues, and then we layer on another antibiotic, and it's like it muddles everything. It's so hard to know what's causing what because we have so much inflammation, and everything's just in like disarray.
yeah,
And so I see it all the time where they go in like cats and they go in and they just come out and they gave the convenient, and I'm like,
yeah,
to be honest, it's the convenient. I mean, that's the name of the drug, right? It's the convenience, and like so
that's what
many
it
like
is.
cat parents, like
I think it's
medicating their
great.
cats is so stressful, and it's like, well, this is the easy solution. I'm like, but an
Yeah,
easy solution doesn't matter if your pet is dead.
yeah,
Like, that's the
yeah.
reality of it. Like, it's just like the
Can,
flea and tick products, right? Like, I see now with like, skin issues, the mites, right? Give
oh yeah,
Credelio, give Bravecto. And I'm like, what happened to how we used to treat it?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
even from a conventional perspective, like what happened? Like, why do we need to use this new drug that has all these side effects? Why don't we use the old stuff that actually was a lot safer for them and it still worked?
yeah, yeah. That's
It's
because you're
crazy.
right, for convenience. And you're, see, you are such a wordsmith. Like, convenient, duh, yeah, because it's convenient. It stays in the system. And I even said that. I was talking about the convenient the other day, and I was like, it's just convenient because it's, and it didn't even put together that it's called convenient. Like, yeah.
They did it on purpose.
Well,
So,
and you're right too. I just had a cat that came and boarded with me. This was a couple months ago, and it had just gotten into a cat fight the day before it came to me, but they didn't tell us. And this was a big, hairy cat. And then about 4 days into it, there was this smell that
no.
my technician or my kennel attendant was like, I don't know, Carrie, there's weird smell coming off this cat. So we went in and looked, and of course it had abscess and it was infected. And so the owner was still out of town. So I felt so bad for the owner because he didn't know. This cat is
Yeah.
hairy. He didn't know that it got a bite wound. He knew he got in a fight, but didn't know that was there. So anyway, I took him to the vet. The vet took the cat, or they took the cat in the back to do an exam. And when he came out, he gave the cat convenient. And
See,
there was
how does that
nothing there was nothing I could do. It wasn't even my cat, but it was their own vet that I ended up taking him to. But still, he comes back and he goes, well, we shaved it up a little bit and we did this and we did that. And I gave him some convenient. And I was like, oh, like, you don't
Yeah.
even give the pet parent or anybody any choice to
Yeah,
do
I
anything.
mean, that's dangerous. I mean, here's the thing, like, I would never dare to do that. I mean, for one, something bad happens, it's your vet license, let's be
Yeah,
real, like,
yeah.
and two, how hard is it to have a conversation? I mean,
It's
what about medical consent?
yeah. There isn't
That's
it.
there isn't. There's no discussion of the pros and cons to anything, like and if a lot of times I hate hearing this, but a lot of times when you do ask, you're looked at like you have five heads and it's like, no, I just really want to know like what are the pros and cons for this?
Yeah,
And it's super interesting. I mean, I've been in personal situations like that too, and I've worked with like functional medicine doctors where you're given a choice of a drug and you're like, wasn't there another alternative? And they're like, oh no, this is pretty safe. And you're like, and I'm like, wait, give me a night. Like, and you go and you research it and it's like, this is not okay. Like, I'm
right.
not willing to take this. And I mean, it's the same here too, in terms of like Wendy's asking, like, what does it do? It's an antibiotic that lasts for at least 2 weeks in the body. So when we think about what is that antibiotic doing, that's why they're giving it, is because then you don't have to worry, like it's in the body long enough to like get rid of any infection. But the problem is that it's also affecting the microbiomes everywhere. It's not working selectively on just the bad, like the abscess, right? Yes, it'll help resolve it probably, but it's also taking out all the good bacteria. So we're going to affect like the gut microbiome. So we may not see anything for like a while, or we might start seeing things like diarrhea, bloody diarrhea, recurring infections, immune system deficiencies, behavior issues because of the gut brain axis. All of a sudden now we have pets that are like more fearful or reactive or things like that. And we don't connect that it was because we gave that drug, because it's potentially months down the road, but we've created this imbalance in the body. And so that's why we don't want to just give drugs. A lot of times, and this is where antibiotic resistance is huge now. And even like when you start looking at the the BASAVA guidelines for managing like skin diseases and antibiotics, a lot of vets are starting to not use antibiotics because of the amount of resistance that we have. So they're using like more topicals and things. And as Carrie knows, like it doesn't necessarily help as much. I mean, sometimes it can help, but we're disrupting that microbiome in the skin. But it's because of that, because we're just taking out everything. Now we have a sterile environment. I think it's called what is it, the hygiene hypothesis, right? Where we now have created a sterile world because we're so into like cleaning things, overuse of antibiotics, the antibiotic usage in like the animals we're eating and their feed, and glyphosate, which is an antibiotic, that's Roundup, that's sprayed, that's affecting soils. Now we've created sterile systems, and that doesn't work. We need the microbes. That's
Yeah.
all the research is showing that. So we always want to ask and do exactly what Carrie did. You know, when you went in, you said, do not give any medication without getting my approval first. Like we literally have to
Had
state that.
to.
And I've seen people do that and they still will give something too, but
Yeah.
at least we can say that and be the best advocate possible for our pets when
You
we
have to
do.
say it before they take your cat in the back, because I think just this recent experience I went through is one of the vets, when she was talking to me, she was had given me, they had already given me the list of all the stuff they wanted to do for my cat, and on that list was quite a few medications they wanted to give. And then I know that before this we were talking a little bit about my cat. I had asked them to give lactulose, and she said, it was very weird to me because she didn't want to give the lactulose because she said, I don't want to give lactulose because I don't know what's going on with your kitty yet. But on this side, she
Two
wanted to give
antibiotics.
a bunch of antibiotics. She still didn't know what was going on. We still don't know what was going on with my cat. But I'm like, God, you think that all of these antibiotics, it's in your brain, it's in everything, that is safe, but lactulose isn't?
Yeah.
And it was just
It's
it was just weird to me that she really felt like all those antibiotics and those injections. And at one point she had even mentioned giving metronidazole, and yeah, and it was very strange because on the table was blockage, and so then she wanted to give metronidazole, and she also wanted to give Cerenia. And I'm like, I want it out.
yeah,
Like,
you're like, he wasn't vomiting, was he?
no, there was no vomiting, none. And it
See,
just
it's like
didn't
just
make
a
sense.
drug cocktail. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, and I can probably like, because I always try to think I've worked in enough vet clinics with, colleagues on the conventional side to know a little bit about like I guess the way they think about things. And I've been there, like, it's been a while now, but I think where it comes from with like, lactulose versus antibiotics, they're probably more comfortable using antibiotics because they give it so much that they usually don't see with how much they're giving it the side effects from it, if that
Right.
makes sense. So
Yeah,
like
that's what I think is the
it's
problem
like
too.
vaccinations. Like the amount of vaccines that you give in a day to all of your patients day in, day out, you usually don't see. It's very rare. Like I remember probably in my entire career so far, I've probably had 2 or 3 anaphylactic reactions where it occurred immediately. And you need to stabilize that pet. Like they start vomiting, like it's a serious
Yeah.
death can occur. You need to address it. But for the most part, you don't see anything, right? Sometimes they'll be like, you'll get a call like, oh, they're a bit sore or they're lethargic, they're not eating as much, right? But you're not making that connection because it's not ingrained in us as a veterinarian, because
Right.
you're not taught
Right.
it. You're like, oh, well, yeah, of course, we stimulate the immune system. That's normal, right?
Right.
But is that normal? Like, and why are we stimulating the immune system so much? So we have to start like looking at that. But that's where I think a lot of times the vet mentality is coming from. Like they're not doing it to create harm. They just have
Sure.
done that so many times that
Yeah.
they
It
haven't
feels
seen
safe.
an adverse reaction. So that's why they keep doing it. Whereas lactulose, they're probably not using it as frequently. So it probably
Right.
freaked her out more, like that she's
Well,
going to
she did
create
not
harm.
want to use it. That she
Yeah.
like adamant against using it, but she would have used metronidazole, which was just it was just strange. It's just
Yeah.
strange. But I thought the same thing. I'm like, they're so comfortable with the same treatment. I mean, this was my first experience with my pet in an emergency room. And I don't even probably ever, I don't know that
Yeah.
I've ever, but I thought it was really strange how quickly they came up with the plan. I mean, it was
It's
because
yeah.
it's just the way the plan is for every pet that walks in there. And
Yep.
so it was just habit for them, metronidazole, antibiotic, like IV fluids, 48 hours. Like it's just kind of just the set in motion thing. And then
Yep.
when I was backing off of it and saying, no, I think it threw her for a loop. Like she didn't know how to respond to that.
Here's
Uh,
the thing, like a lot of these, this is the problem too with vet clinics being bought out by bigger corporations. They have established protocols.
yeah.
So you literally will put in like fever and it will tell you what to do on your computer screen.
Yeah, she
I've
did it
worked
so
in
fast.
clinics like that.
Yeah.
And this is, I will never forget doing an externship for, so way back when, in one of the big corporations, I leave the name unnamed. You probably figure it out, but it was ridiculous. It was like literally ridiculous. And I remember it's funny because, we're talking about skin, like the normal, like go-to drug. This was before Apoquel and Cytopoint, it was steroids, right? But literally with the protocol that it pumped out for you, it said to use non-steroidals for like allergies. And I'm like, that makes zero sense. Like, why would, and like it would block you from moving forward until you clicked it. So I
Wow.
don't know if it's been updated or changed because I
Yeah.
would never work for that company ever. Like I would rather just not be a vet, to be honest,
Right.
than to lose my will to live, to be honest. So like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
one of those things where you potentially are battling that. And as a veterinarian, like if you are stuck in that system, you essentially lose the ability to critically think through how to process this because you're so used to having a protocol spit out at you each time. So that's probably why you're seeing like
I hadn't even,
antibiotics,
yeah, I
anti-nausea.
hadn't even considered that her hands are tied. Her protocol for
Yep.
lawsuits, they want to protect themselves, right?
Yep.
So the
Yep.
protocol got spit out. Batman was a very unique case, and she didn't know what to do with it, and
Yep.
so she just goes with the protocol. It's, I don't know, it's just really sad, but that's that. I have to be honest. Like I wasn't going to tell anybody this, but the Thriving Pet Expo it's an expensive thing to put on for someone like me. I'm not a corporation. I don't have a lot of money. And so we have to put it on. And there were a few moments of me thinking of pulling it. Like honestly, I haven't told anybody that, but Lori knows. And then I went to my place that I go to when I need to really kind of, and that happens to be Yosemite. Most people know that about me. So I go to Yosemite with my husband, and I'm saying to my whatever, my spiritual beings, when I'm in Yosemite, I'm begging for signs. Like I need some signs, right? I need some signs that this needs to be done, that it's gonna matter, that it makes a difference, that I'm doing the right thing. Like I'm asking all these questions. So we're leaving Yosemite, and I will post this picture on Facebook tomorrow so y'all can see it. So we're leaving the gates of Yosemite, and there's still snow up on this mountain right in front of us. And I kid you not, there is one patch of snow that is exactly a poodle. I mean, every bit of it to the little. I took a picture of it. It's not a great picture because the car kind of moved and then we passed it, but it is a poodle. And I was like, that's a clear sign, because the whole time we were there, I was looking for signs. And then I come home and Batman gets sick, and I go through the most horrific 5 days I can remember with any animal. And it's just, in a weird way, I think it was the sign that, yes, the Thriving Pet Expo needs to happen. It's going to make a difference. It's going to reach people. And that is it, because that's what we're talking about at the Thriving Pet Expo, is connecting that disconnect between what I went through with a conventional veterinarian, trying to get her to understand that I'm not just not leaving my pet here because I don't care, or because I don't have the money, though it was very expensive and I didn't have that kind of money to throw at this cat, but I didn't think it was the right thing for him. And neither one of them could get past that idea that I was doing this for my pet, not for, but anyway, I know I got a little emotional there, but I'm telling you, like the Thriving Pet Expo, that's all I did the whole 5 days I was up there, is look for signs. And then I got the picture of the dog, and then I come home and my cat has to go to the emergency room, not one, but three. And all three of them, I got the same, with the exception of one. One was amazing. She just happened to not be able to be there the next day for me. But the two that I went to, if there was not a clearer sign that the Thriving Pet Expo needs to educate people on how to protect their pets, there isn't one. And so I went down today, just this morning, and I made the checkout, and it's done. So yeah, but there were moments where I thought, because as people were buying tickets, I was just putting it in an account to make sure that this was going to finally go through and everything was going to happen. And now I know, I'm convinced that this is just going to be a sign from above that this needs to go on. And so now you guys all know where I was with this, but it's hard. It's a lot of money that has to be put out, and it's not the work. I don't care about the work. I love this kind of work, but it is a lot of money that needs to be put out for something like this to make it be in an environment that is conducive for learning, right? Because sometimes you can go. That's why we have so many levels. Like, we talk about the levels, how important it is to level up. But we have to bring in levels too, because learning can be really difficult. If you spend 2 days of just educating and learning, it can be hard. So we have to bring in some live music. We have to bring in the comedy which we have surprise comedy for you guys. I can't wait. Yeah, Victor, it was scary, and it was something that I knew I needed to make the decision very quickly, because I had to start making and writing out checks, and I wrote the check today. So I'm so excited. And I walked out of there. I left there with just the most amazing feeling that I got the signs I needed, and I can't wait to post you guys the picture of this poodle. I don't know if it would show up on here, but I will look for it. And then if you want to, I don't know if there was another question on there, but this picture, I don't know if it'll show.
I wanted to say, because I think it's Lori posted, we'll also have some special performances too on how to talk to your vet. So it's going to be very different, and it's going to be fun, but also very helpful, because this is a common thing. And as Carrie just went through, this is what she teaches people, and she had to go through it herself. So, making sure that you guys feel confident when you go into the vet, because there's a lot of same situations you're all going through. And so many people get there and it's like, I don't know what to do. So we're going to give you some great tools to continue to be that advocate for your pet, and potentially give yourself space so that you can go home and do the research to make sure you are making the right decision for your pets too. So it's not just about learning. There's going to be some fun things like that also that are going to break it up, but are very important for you to be the best pet advocate that you can be.
That's why it was so interesting that what happened with Batman happened at that exact timing, because for years I've been saying, when you find yourself at the vet, you don't want to, but I've never actually been in it, even though I knew it needed to be taught, which is why we're bringing in the performances. I knew it needed to be taught, but boy, I mean, that just hit the nail for me. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see.
Oh my God,
it's kind of a bad picture, because the car moved and I got it, but you could see the head and the little tail, and then each big, and that was as we were driving out of Yosemite at the gate, and I was like, oh my God, it's my little, it's there's my sign. I've been looking for my sign that I need to do this. I know it seems so silly, but apparently he felt that, or she, or whoever felt that wasn't enough. So then my cat got sick. So it is what it is. But I'm thankful for that moment at those vets, because it's going to bring people together at this event. So it's so great. Yeah, look for your signs. I've always been a big believer in signs and stuff. I'm going to let you guys go, but I'm going to share, I just want to share one little sign story real quick. So, and this is not to make anybody sad. It doesn't make me sad, so it shouldn't make you sad. But some of you know my brother committed suicide just about 1.5 years ago. And he didn't leave anything behind. And it was going to be an extremely expensive funeral, extremely, because he died in Arizona, and I needed to get his body out here. He wanted to be buried. So it was going to be very expensive. So on my way back from Arizona, I'm talking to my brother who just committed suicide. And I'm like, dude, you need to help me. I can't, this is a lot of money. We need help. So at that point, we had gone into the mortuary in Arizona, and it was going to be $5,000 to ship his body from Arizona to the mortuary here in California. So I'm leaving Arizona, and I like to go to casinos. If anybody knows, they know. So I go to the casino, and my husband had a little baby kitten that we were bottle feeding and taking care of. And so he couldn't come in. He didn't want to leave the kitten in the car. But I was like, no, I'm going to the casino. I'll just put $100 in, and then we'll leave. I have a little bit of an addiction. That's true. So I'm walking into the casino, and talking to my brother who just passed away like 8 days ago. And I'm like, his name's Jason. I'm like, Jason, it's $5,000 to get your body out. I'm like, help me out, because if this is going to fall on me, and I know I'm going to end it, the whole thing's going to probably be like 30 grand, right? I walk in. This is an honest to God true story. I even talked about it at the funeral. Walked in, put $100 into a machine. I am not lying when I tell you I won $5,000.
Oh my gosh.
Right? $5,000. First $100 I put in, first spin, $5,000. I was like, oh my God. And then this lady came over, and she was like, oh, and because I was crying. I was physically bawling. And she was like, honey, why are you crying? And I said, she's like, you should be so excited. And then I just told her, this poor stranger, I'd like, my brother. Believe me, that woman will never forget that moment. But it was absolutely shocking. The funny part about that is that later on, after he was, buried, and it cost a lot more than $5,000, I walked into a casino. Obviously, I have a problem. Right? So I'm driving back to my mom. The problem is that there's a casino on the way to my mom's and on the way back from my mom's. So a couple weeks later, I'm driving, and I went into the Morongo on my way out there, and I walk in and I go, that funeral was a lot more than $5,000, right? So believe it or not, my friend was with me, and I won another $1,000. It still didn't cover the funeral, but
oh my goodness.
So listen to your signs, I guess, is my point. And, they're there for you guys. And I don't know how I ended up on that tangent, but those signs are why the Thriving Expo is still going.
Yay. I'm glad you saw the sign. So
yeah, I was getting really nervous because it's costly, and people don't buy the tickets to the last minute is the problem.
Yeah.
And so you start to get this panic. Like, what if they don't buy the tickets? Because you're on the hook for the money, whether the tickets are sold or not. So it can get a little bit scary. But I have faith in pet parents that they want to learn this stuff, and they need to learn it, and that they're going to be there, and they're going to empower themselves. And I think I've put the most amazing speaking team together, and the most amazing vendors to help keep these pets healthy and safe. So I'm excited. So
yeah.
But anyway, I know we've kept you guys a long time with my storytelling that I have, but interesting, right?
Yeah, I believe in science too. My just as before, we go, mine are hawks and like eagles, like bald eagles. And it's always fascinating whenever and this goes for everyone here, like when you tapped into your intuition.
Yeah.
And you'll start seeing like patterns, whatever it is, whether it's like spirit animals, totem animals, whatever it is, something else. Like when you start listening to it, it's really like, okay, I am on the right path, or okay, I shouldn't do that, or this is the right path. And it's always a quiet voice. So you're talking about like the fear and like, I shouldn't do that. That's like our ego, right? Protecting us.
Right.
But that quiet voice of intuition, we need to be like, it's important to listen to it because it's there, it's guiding us. So yeah, I'd love for everyone here, like as a thing, like over the next week, like what are the things that come up for you? And just start, like I get goosebumps because it's so neat when you start tapping into it. There's just this amazing, spirits, guides, God, higher being, source, whatever you want to call it. There's this higher energy that's here to help us. So yeah, I would love for everyone here to just see like what comes up this next week. Yeah.
Yeah, we have the Thriving Pet Expo. If you guys aren't on the Thriving Pet Expo, that's would be a fun thing, is to kind of share some stories of signs that you've seen, and and just be open to them, because so many times I really do feel sorry for people who aren't there yet, they're not there yet. They're not open to the signs.
Yeah.
And they're all around them. And I'm like, it'll make you feel so much better. You're not alone, when you start to, like, I know, like, it, knowing that my brother was a part of that and helped me. I mean, the amount was just crazy. I came out into the car. I was crying. My husband's like, what's wrong? The whole thing. I called my sister right away. I called my mom right away. I was like, Jason gave us $5,000. It was just like, it was just so amazing. And I feel sorry for somebody who isn't open to those signs, because it's just such a beautiful thing. So you can't think. So I was talked into euthanizing. Christine, I am so sorry. And I also want to tell you that was the other thing that I thought so much of when I was in the hospital with Batman, is what would have happened if I would have just said, because the original number that they gave me was like $9,500. And what if I would have said, because they were telling me that he was in a lot of pain, because he was mouth breathing. And Christine brings up that's something that I think about. What was the next option for me? Yeah. If I don't have the money, they don't know what's wrong with him. I'm an emotional wreck.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see my animal in pain. And he was mouth breathing pretty hard. Would I have euthanized my cat and it not been the right thing to do? And Christine, it's not your fault.
No.
I don't know how. I know Dr. Woodley will be better at this than I am, but I'm going to cry for you, because that was what I thought about later. How many animals are I am so going to cry right now. How many animals are being euthanized because of it? I'm sorry.
I think the big thing is, we also have, like, giving yourself grace in those situations and remembering, like, we're doing the best that we can. And, Christine, I'm so sorry you went through that. You will never forget your pet that you lost, and they will help guide you with all your other pets and, like, decisions moving forward. So some of the lessons we have can be very painful and hard, but you'll never forget them. They'll always be with you in your heart and guiding your decisions and helping you. But I'm sorry you went through that.
Yeah. Christine, please send us a picture so we can put, whether you're going to be at the expo or not. We're doing a memorial that we do at the expo, and it's sung to some live music that's beautiful, and it'll be a slideshow of animals that have been lost and that drive us to keep fighting for them. So please send us a picture to the Thriving Pet Expo, and we'll make sure that your pet makes it into the memorial that we're going to be doing. It's important. That's why I want to do these memorials, because it matters. And I want to take just a moment at the Thriving Pet Expo to appreciate, the things that we learn through our pets. So please send us that picture. And anybody else, you don't have to be coming to the expo to do that. We're trying to get as much as we can into it. So please do. But you can still send me, Christine, please send me a picture. And then afterwards, there's going to be probably a tape and everything. And so we'll send you a copy of the at least of the memorial. So, all right. Whew, on that note, I can't believe she brought that up, because I said that to my husband. How many animals are being euthanized that don't need to be euthanized? Just from wrong diagnosis or just not knowing what else to do, kind of thing. So I know, we're so sorry. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and let you go. Dr. Woodley, any last things? Remind them what your topic is about.
Yeah, so my topic is going to be how to optimize your pet's skin health through the gut. So really giving you tools and resources to, like, dial it in, easy things that you can implement and start using through fresh food, herbs, vitamins, minerals, making sure you're not missing something that's kind of holding you back from healing your pet's, like, skin issues. So I would love to meet people there. If you can't make it, though, there's so much great opportunities to continue to learn through what Carrie's doing. We have opportunities through the Natural Pet Doctor with free coffee talks we do every Friday. I know all the speakers, we all tend to do, like, live talks anyways online. So continue to learn. But I would love to meet, if you're going to be there. I am super excited to meet you in person and give you all a big hug. So
I know, right? And you go live with Two Crazy Cat Ladies. Is that on Wednesdays?
we do. It's been kind of postponed a little bit, but
Yeah.
yeah, we do some lives usually once a month, also like roundtable discussions. But my coffee talks with the doc are
That's
always
in
like
the morning,
Friday.
right?
Yeah, 9
Friday
a.m.
mornings.
Mountain Standard Time. Yep. So,
Yeah.
and they're all recorded though, so you can rewatch them. They're at our YouTube channel, Dr. Katie Woodley, the natural pet doctor. So you can rewatch any of them.
Well, that's awesome. Those are usually like about when I'm getting in my car, and then I'll
Yes, I love it.
I'll put it on in my car, and I'm like, I'm gonna crash. This is a bad idea.
No, don't crash. Don't crash.
I know.
That's not the purpose of the coffee talk.
So what I end up doing, actually, I've done it a couple times. I take my phone, I turn it on because it's right about the time I'm getting in my car most days. And then I put the phone clear across so I can just hear you. So I'm not forced to look at it. Like, not forced, but I want to look. And then I'm like, no, I'm just listening. I'm listening.
It's usually just me talking. There's no like presentation, so you don't need to look
There's
at
nothing
me.
I need to see. I don't know why I have the urge to look down, but I have to close my phone and just listen because you are just such a wealth of valuable information that is it's just amazing. You're just so great. I'm so glad I met you. I mean, we always talk, people always, I hate Facebook or whatever. I'm like, I've met some pretty amazing people.
That's the one thing, and it provides a source of sharing. So
yeah. So Wendy, have a safe flight. I'm going to see you on the 28th. So we can call me though. And we'll come up with a little plan about what we're going to do to find out if it's going to bring down anxiety or not. And Victor, thanks for being here. Victor's going to get to meet you. So Victor's one of my clients.
Victor.
So you're going to get to meet a lot of these people. Christine, if there's anything we can do to help you get to it, we do have some people that are looking to share hotel rooms with each other, rides, those kind of things. So if it is something that is what's blocking you being able to get there, let us know. Reach out to us because we have a lot of people we recognize things are expensive. Flights are expensive, but I don't know how far you are, but some people are driving in and we're trying to put together little caravans of people so they can split the gas. So we want to get you there. So just let us know if we can help. Yes. Give me a call over to the spa, Wendy. All right, guys. Thank you, Dr. Woodley, for being here.
Of course.
You're just
Thanks
amazing.
for having me. I love it.
Of course. Awesome. And Lori, behind the scenes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I will see you guys, I guess, at the Thriving Pet Expo or next week. Actually, Wednesday, I'm going to be coming on and really sharing what went on with Batman because I want to make sure that is not ever happened to anybody else. And if I can make it not happen, I will do that. So Wednesday night, I'm going to be talking to you guys. Friday mornings at, is it 8:00?
9
o'clock.
Or you're 8:00 your time. Yeah.
My 8:00. Yeah. Cause I'm like, that's one of my cars. So yeah. So 9:00 is that Mountain Standard, right?
Yeah. Yep.
9:00.
This week I'll be talking about herbs for teas.
Good.
Actually, teas for allergy, like skin issues.
So. Oh, there you go. Teas for allergies. Good. I'm going to be listening in on that one. So this Friday morning, you guys, at 9:00 Mountain Standard Time on Dr. Woodley's The Natural Pet Doctor. So you make sure you get on there in the mornings on your drive to work. Just make sure you put your phone on the side of the car.
No crashing. Just learning.
No crashing. I'm sorry. I was listening. So anyway, all right, you guys have a wonderful evening. I'll see you Wednesday and I'll see you Friday morning, Dr. Woodley.
All right. Sounds good.
All right.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.